If you can just put this into context for our international viewers, in your opinion, what does due process specifically mean? Are we talking about the kind of rules and regulations that you would have upon normal U.S. citizens versus then what these detainees at Guantanamo have access to?
That's exactly right. The due process clause, why it matters that the court held that the due process clause does not apply, is whether or not the detainees are subject to the fundamental human rights document of the United States, which is the U.S. Constitution. By holding that the due process clause specifically does not apply, the court the majority of the court was essentially holding that no constitutional protections extend to the detainees. Anything that Congress and the president deem fit for the detainees is good enough. And that's the ultimate significance of the due process clause. It sounds like a very technical provision of the Constitution, due process. But what it really is it's the basic protection of human dignity in the United States Constitution so that no one can be deprived of their life, liberty, or property except upon procedures that are deemed fair and trustworthy to a constitutional standard. And that is ultimately what the court held the detainees in Guantanamo are not entitled to. For the first time since Guantanamo has been open, the court reached this conclusion.
And that's concerning because I would think at some level that the argument is that because they are in Guantanamo, not in U.S. mainland, that the court would rule this way?
That was right. It was a very technical, a very cramped view of the Constitution's application, so that the court held that Guantanamo is essentially, again, the kind of legal black hole that it was initially designed to be. Now, as someone who has followed these issues for a number of years, I thought these issues had been resolved, particularly when the Supreme Court held in 2008 that detainees are, in fact, entitled to some constitutional protections, particularly something that's very closely aligned with the concept of due process in American law, which is the right to habeas corpus. That's an old doctrine that comes from English law that says you always have the right to be able to go to a court to say that I am being held unlawfully.